sunny Saturday morning like I do. It's been a great day and it's a good way to start. And thank you once again for joining us at the Study in Canada virtual fair. My name is Welly Custono. I'm the Director of Canadian Education International Indonesia, as well as the COO of Indonesia Canada Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to be here with you this morning as I will be delivering the first presentation session of this morning, which the topic is Study, Work, and Live in Canada. Now, a little bit background about CEI before I begin. We are a not-for-profit foundation based in Indonesia, and our given mandate is to work with the Embassy of Canada to promote Canadian education in Indonesia. And a little bit background about this fair as well. This is a Government of Canada fair, and we organize this twice a year in the month of February and October. In the past, we've been using the name Edu Canada Fair, but for this time, it's called Study in Canada Virtual Fair. But essentially, it's the same experience. Later on, you will be able to meet with direct representatives from many Canadian institutions across Canada. We have about 40 institutions joining later this morning. A little bit about the background as well. The first program in order is this morning session from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then I encourage you by the end of the session to go back to the page, to the landing page, which is studyincanada.world. And from there, you can click on the button to log in into the fair, which is going to be open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And basically, you're welcome to visit any booth. There is a search engine. I strongly encourage you to use the search engine in order to find the right programs offered by the right institutions at specific locations of your preference. So the search engine is excellent. And I also need to remind you, there is another session which is very important. It's the Visa Section Seminar from the Embassy of Canada, and it's going to be on at 1 p.m. Now, if you want to join that session, make sure you are in the platform before 1 p.m. because the platform is automatically closed at 1 p.m. and you won't be able to join afterward. All right, so keep that in mind. If you are interested to join the Visa Section webinar, then you need to log in and be in the platform before 1 p.m. Now, last but not least, I just want to encourage everyone to submit questions throughout my entire session. I'll do my best to answer them because we do have a Q&A session in the end. Now, depending on the amount of questions submitted, I may not be able to answer all of them, but no worries because my team is also at the virtual fair at the CEI booth, and you are welcome to consult your questions there. We will try to address the most frequently asked questions and the general ones in this session, and the more specific ones you can ask at our booth or by going to the help desk. That's also available at this fair. Now, before I begin, probably the biggest question that in everyone's mind right now is, you are organizing a fair. Are international students allowed to study in Canada right now during this COVID-19 pandemic? And I just want to assure you before we begin the session so you can focus on the content. Yes, international students are allowed to study in Canada right now. So not just via online back here in Indonesia. You can if you want to, but you can also study physically in Canada, provided that you are studying in a Canadian institution that has been approved for their COVID-19 readiness plan. The border remains open, of course, with health protocols that needs to be observed. All right, so that's the opening for the session. Now I would like to begin my presentation. Hope the content will be useful to all of you. Thank you. So let's begin with a quick update about the current international student status in Canada in terms of the numbers and the profile. Now, as per end of 2019, there are nearly 650,000 international students studying in Canada, not all of them from Indonesia, obviously, but the number of Indonesian students studying in Canada based on the last 10 years statistics has been very positive as well. Like the growth has continued to gone up in the past 10 years, and there was not even a single year that the number dropped. Now, with the pandemic last year in 2020, we are still looking forward to the statistic of what the effect of the pandemic on the number. Now, again, back from 2010 to 2019, there's been the statistics is amazing because there's been an increase of nearly 200% just within the 1 decade alone. And if just looking back 1 year, so from 2018 to 2019, the increase is also very positive. It's around 13%. 96% of the international students recommend Canada as a study destination, and they are choosing Canada because of the quality of the education system, the tolerance and the non-discriminatory society in Canada, and also the reputation as a safe country. Now, between 2014 to 2018, the growth of international student recruitment in Canada is actually the highest in the world at 73%. And this is much higher compared to those other countries that are also quite popular among international students for overseas education. So Canada now is actually number four highest receiver of post-secondary international students in the world after US, UK, and Australia. But the unique thing about Canada in particular is that 75% of all the international students studying in Canada are post-secondary students. So this is actually against the myth. A lot of people sometimes think, or a lot of parents sometimes think, that maybe I should wait until my kids or my children are older before they travel far away, like to a country like Canada to study. So maybe they'll just, study somewhere closer to Indonesia for their undergraduate study, and maybe once they are more mature for their master or PhD level, then they can go to a farther country like Canada. But I'm telling you here that the stats is right there. 75% of them are actually fairly young students that have just graduated from high school. The question is, of course, why? And that's going to be the focus of my presentation today. Almost 50% are in province of Ontario. Probably one of the popular cities that you know in Ontario is Toronto, which is the biggest city in Canada. Nearly 25% are in BC, British Columbia. One of the city that you probably, very much familiar is Vancouver, which is the third largest city in Canada. And about more than 10% are in Quebec. And the city that you may have also heard is Montreal, which is the second largest city in Canada. The top fields of study of international students in Canada are still very much revolve around engineering, business, natural, and social science. But of course, there are many new concentration, major, minor, or double concentration that are now being offered in many Canadian institutions. So it's always exciting to see the development of program of study that's now available to international students. And I'm going to talk about more details about that as well later on in my presentation. Let's start with the topic, obviously, why students or younger students as well choose Canada as their overseas study destination. There are obviously many reasons, but three recurring themes that continue to continue to be the important factors among students and parents when determining Canada as their overseas study destination is: number one, quality of life; number two is quality of education; and number three is work opportunity. Now, I'm pleased to inform you that Canada again and again has been ranked very high in terms of country with the best quality of life. In fact, based on the US News country ranking 2020, which is fairly recent, Canada once again ranked as number one in terms of quality of life. But they're actually also ranked very high for quality of education as well, number three. There is also another stats that I'm going to share with you later on. Now, work opportunity is about the not just about the work opportunity available to students during study, like part-time, off-campus, but I'm also talking about a myriad of other opportunities like internship, co-op, and most importantly, post-graduation work permit that's available for international students. And it's still available to international students currently studying online at their home country, or in Indonesia in this case, because of the COVID-19. More on that as well in my session later on. So let's start with the first one, which is about the quality of life. But before I begin on that, I just want to again emphasize that during this entire COVID-19 pandemic, international students have been able to resume the study at their home country by studying online, either through synchronous or asynchronous mode. Basically, you can still study virtually at home, and you are also able to get more information about different aspects of education, namely through this Study in Canada Virtual Fair today, and also through other online events like seminars or virtual campus tour and others that are also available to you. You can ask more about it with the reps of different universities, colleges that are here with us at the fair. So let's start with the quality of life. Of course, there are many different aspects of quality of life that we can focus on, but due to the time constraint, I will only focus on a couple. And one of them that's all very important is diversity and inclusivity. So I'm also proud to inform you that Canada was the first country in the world to adopt multiculturalism as as an official policy. And Canada is also very big in gender equality. In fact, the current federal cabinet ministers, nearly 50% of them are all female as well. So Canada is also known for the economy as well. And probably this isn't, maybe this is not too familiar to a lot of people, but Canada is obviously part of the G20, and it is actually ranked number one as the easiest place to start a business. It has the number 9, so in the top 10 financial system in the world. It's also the 6th best country to do business according to Forbes in 2019. And this is very important. It's also in the top 10 of the most entrepreneurial economy in the world. Especially these days, a lot of young people are interested in startups, and they have very high spirit of entrepreneurship. And basically, that's something that Canada is also excel at. In fact, in many of our main cities across Canada, we have significant startup ecosystem. And this is important because the private sector and the education sector often they work closely together. So the private sector support the research and development of the institutions, but at the same time, the institutions are supplying them with the qualified workforce accordingly. So cities like Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Edmonton, Quebec City, They have different kinds of startups that may not even exist 5 or 10 years ago. Things like big data and analytics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, fintech, um, robotics, clean tech, gaming. So those are some of the new fields that a lot of millennials are now interested in, and definitely something that Canada has a lot to offer. Now, Canada is also very innovative, and this is also part of the quality of life, because with the innovation, it will improve on the quality of life. Now, there are many innovations by Canadians, but these are just some of the important ones that I would like to highlight. Something like computerized braille, telephone handset, plexiglass, cardiac pacemaker, insulin, and then 3DC, HIV suppressing drug, Java software programming, sonar, Canadarm at the ISS, International Space Station, and many other innovation and technology. So the list is obviously endless, but that's not what you're here for, because you want to know more about the education aspect, and that's what I want to talk about next. Basically, in terms of the quality of education, as I've mentioned, Canada actually ranked #3 according to the US News and World Report, also very recent in 2020. Now, you probably noticed in my earlier presentation, I was showing you how Canada is very innovative and very entrepreneurship as well. And it has something to do with the research and development itself. So Canada, as a country, their collaborative research and development is amount to up to 3% of the entire scientific research worldwide. So that's quite significant, considering the population of Canada is only 0.5% of the whole world. And yet the contribution to the scientific research and development is, multiple than that. It's nearly 3%. So there are obviously many aspects that I can talk about quality of education, namely one of them is ranking. But I'm also fairly confident that most of you probably know the ranking already. The Times Higher Learning, QS, those rankings are also available. But what I want to talk about when discussing the quality of education are the other aspects that you may not be familiar with, and one of them being, again, research and development. I mentioned earlier that the Canadians' contribution to the scientific research worldwide is nearly 3%. However, what is the driving force of this research and development? In many countries, it's the government that plays the major role. In most countries, probably it's going to be the private sector, and it's also true in Canada. But what's very interesting is that Canadian colleges and universities, the education sector, is also that also plays significant role in the research and development. In fact, the education sector in Canada is responsible for almost 40% of all research and development in Canada. And that's like the second largest force after the private sector, which is why the quality of education in Canada is very excellent. In fact, if we compare the involvement of the education sector in the national research and development, we compare Canada with other countries, our percentages are actually the highest at 38%, almost 40% compared to these other countries. Now, but quality of education is not only measured at the research level. What about at a much younger stage, like high schools, primary and secondary? One indicator to best measure this is the PISA result. And basically, based on the latest result, which is, I believe, is PISA 2018, Canada is probably the top Western country in this case, because if you have seen the list, quite a few countries at the very top are from the Asian part of the world, but Canada is actually ranked very high at the top with those countries as well, in terms of the readings, the mathematics, and the science. Finally, talking about the quality of education, I'm also pleased to inform you that Canada is one of the top spender country in the world on public post-secondary education per capita. And why Canada is able to do this is Canada is quite fortunate. In addition to the strong economy that it has, the population in Canada is only around 35 to 36 million people. So that allows for big spending that can be focused on their people, allowing for Canada to be the third country in the world with the highest rate of adult population with a post-secondary education. So the investment is there. They put a lot of investment in the post-secondary education per capita, and the output is also clear. It makes Canada become the #3 country in the world where the adult population has the highest rate of post-secondary education, which is why Canada is also dubbed as the one of the most educated country in the world. Now let's move on into the system now. In order for international students to study post-secondary education, obviously there are many forms of institutions that they can consider. There are universities, there are polytechnics, there are colleges. So how to differentiate between them? So let's start with the university first. University is usually quite identical with higher education. That's why the degrees there or the programs that they are offered tend to start at the bachelor level, master, and PhD. Bachelor is usually completed in 3 to 4 years. Master is usually 1 to 2 years. PhD is usually 3 to 5 years. So how is that different to colleges? Colleges and polytechnics tend to offer programs that are, below the bachelor degree level. So it's more hands-on, it's more practical. While university is more research-oriented, college studies usually tend to be more practical. So the programs offered are certificates, diploma, advanced diploma, and in some cases, bachelor and postgraduate certificate or diploma. So certificate is usually 1 year long, diploma is usually 2 year long, advanced diploma is usually 3 year long. But unlike other countries, the certificate, diploma, and advanced diploma offered by Canada are not only at the post-secondary level for those high school graduates. We also offer postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma. They are offered for students that have graduated from university. So it's not a master, and that's the difference than university. Well, university is more coursework and research oriented for the master level. Now for college, with the postgraduate certificate or diploma are more hands-on or practical. Now, if I may give another illustration of the learning aspect of university and college and how they are different, is if you can imagine with me a triangle, a triangle, but one is like this, a regular triangle, and another one is inverted. University learning is more like a regular triangle. So you start at the bottom with something quite spread out, where you take different kind of elective courses, you take some of the introductory courses, and as you progress through the years, you will also move up the ladder, all the way to the top of the triangle, and you become more focused, which is why, let's say, if you want to study business, you will not just be studying business. You'll be looking at specific concentration like marketing, accounting, management science, and others. Or if you are going into engineering, there's chemical engineering, mechanical, electrical, and so on. And so, and similar cases with other program of study as well. But with a college or polytechnic, it tends to be inverted in the sense that you will start with something more specific at the beginning, and then you will add on more general and elective courses as you progress, which is also why which is why college and polytechnics can also offer bachelor programs, and they are fairly good at it as well, and they are usually called the applied degrees. So definitely interesting to see the difference and see how they are suitable to your study preference, your learning style, and so on. The student size are also quite different. University tend to be larger institutions, so the student body is, certainly larger compared to the colleges, and the class size is also quite different. College students tend to have smaller class size as well. The fees are also going to be different because obviously there are different overhead costs between universities and colleges. I will talk about the fees later on in my presentation. So let's move on now about different program offerings. Now, I promised earlier in my introduction that I will highlight several fields that are popular and very strong in Canada. So business and administration is very big. And one of the good thing about studying business is the collaboration between business and industry. I think I've mentioned this several times throughout my entire presentation, and it's true because one thing that Canada is also known of is the co-op education, where students are able to learn directly from the field of professionals or by working in a real company, and it's part of learning. And I will talk more about the co-op later on, but work placements, co-op, internship are very important experience that a lot of business students can explore when studying in Canada. Engineering students as well. So Canada is one of the 5 largest energy producers in the world. So things that related to energy, ICT, new technology, new energy technology like nuclear, oil and gas, hydrogen, or even the green energy like solar, biomass, wind, tidal, thermal, and hydroelectric. Those are all very popular and very strong in Canada as well. Science and biotech is definitely always interesting, especially with the pandemic in the background. Any bio-related fields tend to be very interesting these days. A lot of people talk about it, and a lot of students are also interested in it as well. So I've talked about quality of life. I've also talked about quality of education. I want to spend the remaining time of my presentation to talk about work opportunity because this is big. I think a lot of young students, a lot of millennials now are very smart. They understand the importance of practical experience and professional experience, and those don't have to wait until you have completed your study or you have graduated. You can actually gain some experience while studying as well, and that's what Canada offers. We offers a myriad of work opportunities that are available to international students, starting with the part-time 20 hours a week, full-time during school break, off-campus and on-campus, and then we also have internship, field placements, practicum. But I want to focus on the first one and the last one in the list that you are seeing in the slide right now. The first one is co-op. So co-op is basically a school program. You need to understand that. So you will be graded. You can pass or you can fail co-op. But the good thing about the co-op is you will actually be immersed in a full-time program. So when a student is doing co-op, he or she won't be studying in a university or in a college. He or she will be working in a real company in Canada or in any other parts of the world or even back in Indonesia, applying whatever that they have learned so far. Now, at the same time, whatever that they have experienced, they have learned by doing the co-op program, they can also bring back to the classroom. Because co-op is not a program that's only done once for the entire program of study. That would be internship, usually done near the end. But co-op is a program where students can take multiple times throughout the entire study. Most of the time, students will take one co-op semester every year, starting from year 2. So one co-op semester in year 2, another co-op semester in year 3, another semester in year 4. One co-op semester is about 4 months long, which means if you study for a 4-year degree, by the time you completed the program, you will also be able to have about a year co-op experience in your belt already. And that makes you stand out more or more competitive in the job market, because you are not only graduating from a well-reputable university or polytechnics or college, you have great GPA, but more importantly, you can actually highlight those co-op experience in your CV, and that makes you even more competitive. So that's the importance of co-op. And of course, another bonus on top of that is that co-op is usually paid work experience, so it's paid job, and you will be paid with very competitive salary, according to the market. So it's definitely very interesting and a very fruitful experience for students. Now, another work opportunity that I want to highlight is the one after you have completed your study, and that's post-graduation work permit. So with post-graduation work permit in Canada, as for now, you will be able to gain up to 3-year work permit upon completion of your study. You don't have to leave Canada. In fact, by the time your study permit expires, if you have already applied, then approved for the PGWP, then you can continue working after you graduate in Canada. And that the experience that you have earned from the PGWP program can be utilized for your permanent resident application, should you be interested in doing that. So a little bit about the PGWP amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. I just want to highlight and I want to assure you that even though you are currently studying online at your home country or in Indonesia, as long as your distance learning is less than 50% of your entire program duration, you are still eligible for PGWP. So that's very assuring for a lot of international students studying online right now due to the pandemic situation. All right. Now, I just want to supply with some more supplementary information like fees and all, and then we can wrap up the session and start focusing on the Q&A. So the first one that I want to highlight is the educanada.ca website. This is a very important site for you to go to and visit and collect information, especially if you are interested in studying in Canada. And now it's about the fees as well. Now, I've promised the parents, especially, you probably want to take out your calculator now and start, start calculating. Basically, the tuition fees for international students, for undergraduate students, is usually around 30,000 Canadian dollars. And this is particularly true for universities. For polytechnics and colleges, usually it's around 20,000 Canadian dollars on average. So there is also the difference between university and college or polytechnic in terms of the fee as well. And usually the difference is around 10 grand. What about the graduate students? The tuition fee for graduate students are usually around 20,000 Canadian dollars as well. Now, with the exception for MBA program, because MBA is usually more costly and more in the higher margin. Some of them can even be as high as about 100,000 Canadian dollars for the program. So you need to check on that. There are some universities that are here with us today that offer graduate programs, including MBA, and you're welcome to have a look and have a chat with them. Now, I want to highlight a little bit more about the costs, because when we are talking about costs or fees of studying overseas, or in this case in Canada, apart from the tuition fee, we also need to look at the living costs as well. In general, the living costs in Canada is somewhere between 10 to 15,000 a year, depending on the cities where you live. But those cities in Canada are still quite economical compared to many major cities in the world. So this slide is actually based on the Mercer's 2020 cost of living ranking. So the information is very current. As you can see, if the numbers are smaller, those are more expensive. As the numbers grow bigger, usually the cost of living will be lower. So as you can see here, a lot of cities in the Asia Pacific region are actually quite expensive, like in like in China, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, or even Indonesia, and also some of the cities in Australia. But if we compare it with Canada, we are actually quite economical in terms of the cost of living as well. So it's very important for you, especially parents and students, as you budget your overseas study plan, that you have also considered not only the fees of that are required by the Canadian institutions or the education institutions, but also to be looking at the living cost of living as well. One of the biggest component of cost of living is actually accommodation, where you live and where you can sleep, basically. And in a lot of those countries that are very expensive, the population density is very high. So they don't have a lot of living spaces available. So the law of supply and demand kicks in, and that's why the cost is very high. In Canada, with the exception of some of the major cities like Vancouver and Toronto, we still have plenty of space, actually, considering the population of the country is only 36 million. So the population density is quite low, and we do have more living spaces available at affordable cost. Vancouver and Toronto are getting crowded. There are a lot of investment in it, and the cost of living has been increasing, but it remains competitive to the other top cities in the world. In fact, I have another study that's also very interesting to look at, and that's the Economist Intelligence Unit 2019 livability ranking. So basically, essentially, this is to highlight the 10 most livable cities in the world right now. And as you can see in the slide, there are two countries in particular that are very dominant in that table, and one of them is Canada. And we have 3 cities out of those 10, and they are Calgary, Vancouver, and Toronto. And they all have ranked very high in terms of stability, healthcare, culture, environment, in the education and infrastructure. In fact, all of the 10 cities in the table there, they have perfect score 100 for the education aspect. So those are, again, some of the information that I'm able to highlight in this limited time for the presentation. I just want to conclude by showing this slide, so you're welcome to take note of these email addresses. These are my email address as well as my team members. We also have area representatives based in Surabaya and Medan. So if you are from those cities, you can contact Joseph in Surabaya or Livy in Medan. If you are in Jakarta, you can contact me or Tika. Again, I need to remind everyone, if I'm not able to answer most of the questions during this Q&A, please forgive me, but I certainly do not want to hold you back for the session, but I much rather that you be able to enter the virtual fair and engage directly with the Canadian institution representatives. But if you need to contact us, our booth is also available at the fair. It's called Canadian Education International, and you can also go to the help desk for additional help. All right, I have seen some questions coming in already, so I would like to take the time now to answer them. We have about 20 minutes left before the session ends. The first question is, if I'm currently studying at a university in Indonesia, can I continue my studies in Canada, or I have to start again from the first semester? Very good question. And I just want to, I haven't got a chance to highlight this or talk about transfer students, but you certainly can. But the general rule of thumb is if you are an international transfer student, usually you won't be able to transfer more than 50% of your entire study. So if you are aiming for a bachelor degree, let's say you are currently an undergraduate student in Indonesia, but you want to transfer to Canada. If the bachelor degree in Canada is 4 years, right, as I explained earlier, then the best case scenario is for you to be able to transfer up to 50% of that entire 4 year. So the first 2 years. So if you are already in the third or even in the fourth year, maybe it's worthwhile for you to complete the program first and then maybe consider higher degree like master or maybe postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma. But if you are still in your first or second year, then that's actually the best time for you to transfer and to make sure that most of the courses can be transferred. All right. One advice is for you to get the syllabus course outline of those translated in English, and they need to be verified first, so the Canadian institutions can have a look and determine how many of those courses can be transferred. So hope that question that helps to answer the question. Let's move on now. I'm a master graduate and planning for 1 year postgraduate certificate program. Would I need student visa? Another great question. Any programs with the durations more than 6 months, you need to apply for study permit. So if your program is 1 year, then obviously you need to apply for the study permit. Now, good news for you, we also have the visa section representative from the Embassy of Canada at the fair. They have a booth at the fair that you can go to. I believe it's called Embassy of Canada, and you are able to visit that booth to ask questions about study permit application. And again, as I have mentioned in my introduction earlier, there is a presentation by the visa section at 1 p.m. later today. But you need to log in and be in the platform before 1 p.m. because at 1 p.m. sharp, the system will close the door and you won't be able to log into the platform anymore. So don't be late. Let's move on now. I want to ask if we can work more than 40 hours during university break. The answer is no. Usually the definition of full-time is 40 hours. Definition of part-time is 20 hours. And it's very easy to calculate because we have Monday to Friday, and one day is about 4 hours for part-time, right? It's from 8-hour working day for 1 day. So if it's part-time, it's 4 hours. 4 times 5 is 20 hours. So 20 hours part-time during study, because remember, you are there to study, not to work. But during break, you are able to work 40 hours, all right? So make sure you don't break these rules because this will jeopardize your status as an international student in Canada. So you definitely don't want to violate any of those requirements. Now, let's move on. I'm curious about how research funding works. Are international students eligible for research funding, and what are the chances to be eligible for funding? So there are fundings and there are scholarships. Fundings usually may come from government or private sector, or even from the education institution itself, and so does scholarship. So if you are a graduate student, I suggest you take a look at www.scholarships.gc.ca. Again, you can get this information at the embassy's booth or at the CI's booth. And basically, it will offer you with a list of funding or scholarship opportunities that are available to international students from many parts of the world. So there is a drop-down menu where you can choose Indonesia, and then it will give you a listing of fundings and scholarships available to graduate students from Indonesia. Now, what about the undergraduate students? How can you get, well, not research funding, but scholarships? Most of the scholarships offered for undergraduate students tend to be offered directly by the institutions. So you must check with the universities or the colleges or the polytechnics at the fair to see what kind of scholarships they have available for international students. All right, hope that answers the question. Now, the question is, I'm in 7th grade. Can I continue my high school in Canada? You certainly can. In fact, we have some primary and secondary Canadian institutions at the fair as well. I think there are like about 4 or 5 of them scattered in different parts of Canada, different cities of Canada. So make sure you check with them, all right, at the fair. Do students need health insurance? Yes, you do. Basically, all international students must be covered by health insurance. Otherwise, the cost of medical for international students will be very expensive there. So usually when you first join or when you first land in Canada, you will be covered by the private medical insurance first. But once you have already applied for the government medical insurance package, then you no longer need to be covered by the private medical insurance. But some other provinces in Canada may already incorporate the health insurance fees to the fees for tuition and others. So make sure you check with the institutions whether the fees have already included the health insurance. If it's already covered, then you don't need to pay extra for it. Okay, so again, that's a good question. Next question. What are the general university application requirements for most universities in Canada? How does it differ from the US? I would say that Canada is quite straightforward. First of all, we don't need SAT. So that's good news for students listening to this. We don't require SAT to apply for Canadian institutions, universities, polytechnics, or colleges. So I think if I may sort of like categorize them, the first one is obviously your grades. So that's your school grades from your respective schools. Now, speaking of grades, I need to remind everyone that the major intake or the major intake for international students to study in Canada is usually in September. So the timing actually works well with Indonesian students because you finish your study around May, June, right? So that gives you a couple of months to prepare for your study. But in terms of the application, you have to be a lot earlier than that. That's why we organize our Government of Canada's fair in October and February, because some of the university application deadlines are actually in January, February, or March. So this is it. I mean, if you are at the fair today and you are in your final year, you are about to graduate, whether from university or from high school, now is the time for you to research, make decisions quickly, and apply, because you don't want to exceed the application deadline. All right. So back again to the requirements. Apart from the school grades, another important one is the language, English proficiency. So there is TOEFL and IELTS. Those are the main ones. But of course, due to the pandemic, there are also other testing that may be accepted by institutions. But let me use TOEFL and IELTS as standard. The standard for TOEFL score is usually around 90 plus minus 10, whether you are applying to colleges or universities, whether you need extra ESL, English as a second language program, or you can enter the program just like the rest of the Canadians. And for IELTS is usually around 6.5 with no band below 6 normally. So that will be your reference. But again, that also depends on the institutions you are applying to, the programs you will be applying. So make sure you check with the respective booths at the fair. All right, and last but not least, so first one is grades, 2 is language proficiency, and 3rd is supplementary information. Sometimes they may ask for personal statement or maybe personal essay, so you need to you need to respond accordingly. All right. Now, next question. I'm looking for a secondary school in Canada for my children. Do you have any representative in Canada Fair? I think I answered that. There are a few for primary and secondary institutions available at the fair. So make sure you go to the search engine and then filter program for primary and secondary schools. So it will only give you the ones that offer primary and secondary. So that will make you, it will save you a lot of time rather than have to, check one booth at a time. All right. Considering I'm currently studying in Malaysia for my undergraduate program, I would like to know if I can go for my master's degree in Canada, even though Malaysia undergraduate program is only 3 years. Again, that's a good question. I think I've noticed more and more now that the requirement for graduate study is just a completed bachelor degree. If it doesn't say 4-year bachelor degree and you have completed your undergraduate study, I think you will be eligible to apply. So, and it's not just from Malaysia, because I think quite a few students from Australia and Canada also, New Zealand also have similar issue, because it's a 3-year undergraduate bachelor degree program, unless if you have taken an honors degree. So I don't think that's an issue as long as you have completed the bachelor degree and you can provide the certification. But again, just to be sure, you've got to check with the institutions, because different institutions may have slightly different criteria in terms of the admission requirements. Before we actually start the semester, when is the recommended time to apply for universities and scholarship? Good question. You should have applied before you submit your application. But let me say this. This is also makes the application process a lot simpler, especially for undergraduate study. Yeah? For the undergraduate study, when you submit your application to the institution, generally speaking, you are automatically considered for the entrance scholarship. So if you are very good academically and you are meeting other criteria, then you may be automatically offered for scholarship. But there are also some other types of scholarships that you have to apply separately. And these ones tend to be more, complex, because you have, application requirements to fulfill. And the deadline is usually earlier as well, much earlier than the application deadline. So, I mean, the application to the school, not the scholarship. So the scholarship deadline application tends to be earlier. So you've got to check on that, especially if you need to apply separately. Usually you will go under financial aid or scholarship at the respective institution website, and they will give you the walkthrough or the requirements of that you must fulfill in order to submit the application successfully. For the graduate students, you have to get a professor that is willing to become your advisor. And once he or she confirm, then you may be, you can look at scholarship offerings, because I think most of the scholarship offerings for graduate students require you to be admitted to the program first. So again, please double check. Can we pay for the diploma tuition fee relying on our part-time income job? No, definitely not. In fact, when you are applying for study permit application, they tend to ask that you have sufficient funding. Although they are not asking you to have sufficient funding for your entire program, but they will be asking for sufficient funding for at least 1 year, living costs and tuition fees included. So I'm fairly sure that just relying on the part-time won't be able to cover for your tuition fees. Okay. I'm graduating from a British school in Jakarta with an IB program. Do I need to do an English proficiency test to study in Canada? Good question. For those of you taking international programs at your high school now, whether you are taking IB or Cambridge, GCE. In general, you won't have to, but they'll be looking at how many years you have studied at that particular high school. So you gotta check. Again, some institutions may still require you to submit TOEFL or IELTS, but in general, your English IB or your English Cambridge A level or O level may be used to substitute for that. But you need to double check with the institutions again, because I hate to generalize and you miss that important requirement. So make sure you double check with the institutions, okay? Can we use IELTS GT? And forgive me, I'm not sure I'm familiar with the term IELTS GT, whether it's different than the regular IELTS test. But basically, as I mentioned earlier, you can use your IELTS score or your TOEFL score to fulfill the English proficiency requirement. What about age? Is there any limited age to do college? Because I'm 36 now and I want to do the college again. So basically, you're never too old to study. So there are, again, as I said, obviously, there are many different kind of programs available to international students at any different level, whether you are young or whether you are older. But basically, you need to make sure that you are meeting all the necessary requirements, not only for the application to the education institution, but also the application for the study permit application. So make sure you are meeting all of them, so there won't be any problems in the future. How to get scholarships from high schools in Canada? Again, you gotta check with the school directly whether they are offering one for international students, because those scholarships are generally not offered by the government of Canada. So you gotta check with the institutions. I have a gap in my education and I want to pursue grad diploma. Is still acceptable? Yes, of course. In fact, most of the older students pursuing graduate certificate or graduate diploma programs, either they have, some of them they graduated from university and go directly to those programs, but there are also others that have been working for several years in various fields, and which is exactly because of that they want to focus on a certain area that now they have identified from their work experience, and they want to focus on that, and that's perfectly fine. So you don't have to graduate directly from university to apply to the grad certificate or grad diploma program, okay? I want to know that if I apply to Canada during pandemic, is it able to get student visa to Canada while pandemic? Yes, the visa section is open. I believe the VFS, which is the case processing center in Indonesia, is also open and can receive applications. And all of the study permit applications are done online anyway at the comfort of your own home, so you don't even have to go out. And again, if you're just joining and you might have missed my earlier introduction, Canada's border remains open to international students, but yes, we do have health protocols that you must follow, and more on that you can get the information at the visa section seminar later on at 1 p.m. Okay. So I've also seen that there are many questions are specific to certain field of study, so we won't be able to cover that in the Q&A session. But again, as I mentioned, there is an excellent search engine that you can use at the platform later on. You can search by location. In Canada, you can search by program, meaning like which level of education: high school, primary, secondary, undergraduate, certificate, diploma, bachelor degree, master, and so on. And you can also search by field of study. So let's say you want to study business, accounting, engineering, computer science, and any other field of study. You can filter using the search engine. So I think that will make your experience at the platform a lot smoother, rather than you have to check booth by booth. Please, again, use the search engine. If you are not sure, go to the help desk or the CEI booth. We can help you. Do Canadian institutions offer sports scholarship? You have to check. I think universities that have varsities, so like they have sport teams, they may also offer sports scholarship as well. So you're welcome to check about it. Finally, last question. So I think we are really good because right now it's 9 a.m. Now I'm just going to answer this last question, but I would like to encourage everyone else if the fair is now open. It's right at 9 a.m. now. So you're welcome to leave this session, go back to the landing page. It's studyincanada.world, and you can sign in using your login credentials. So you can, start meeting with the Canadian institutions. Good luck, and I hope you can have a fabulous day at the fair. One final question before we wrap up the session. Are there any Canadian universities who are in collaboration with any Asian universities? Um, I believe so, but I'm not sure if they have any collaboration with an Indonesian university. So that's not something that I'm familiar with at the moment. But once again, hope you can find that information when you go to the embassy's booth. All right. I think that is all. Thank you very much for listening. And once again, I wish you a fabulous experience at the Study in Canada Virtual Fair. And don't forget, there is a visa section seminar by the Embassy of Canada at 1 p.m. And make sure you are already in the system before 1 p.m. so you won't miss this seminar. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.